For a very long time to come, the year 2014 will remain indelible in the annals of Nigeria for its multifaceted significance. On the 1st of January 2014, Nigeria attained its first century of nationhood. This is a rare feat not given to many countries. A people from diverse ethnic nationalities, over 300 different languages, cultural identities, different religious and political leanings, to have lived together for as long as 100 years as one indivisible entity. Although our tribes and tongues differ, to quote a portion of the national anthem, Nigeria in the last 100 years has indeed drawn a lot of strength in the diversity of our people, which has defied all classifications. Nigeria's centenary celebration should also remind all of us that we have successfully conducted our 5th consecutive election under civilian dispensation. Nigeria's influence in the international community is growing by the day as an emerging powerhouse in world affairs, whose principles are anchored primarily on Africa as the centerpiece of Nigeria's foreign policy. Here, very meaningful intervention that has brought about life-changing development to different parts of the continent has been brokered. The special colloquium convened to seek intellectual introspection into Nigeria's journey into nationhood in the last 100 years and profile the way forward with the challenges of the next century, staring every one of us in the face, was attended by over 40 heads of state and governments and their representatives from different parts of Africa, the United States of America, the United Kingdom, the European Union, France, Germany, and a number of other countries with whom we have cordial ties. After a thorough interrogation of Nigeria's journey into nationhood in the last century, all the leaders suggested what they see from their separate perspectives as the fastest route for Nigeria to travel to gain lost grounds and consolidate its leadership position on the continent. There was a consensus of opinion that the issue of insecurity, which has remained hydra-headed and intractable in many parts of Africa, especially with the Boko Haram insurgency hitting Nigeria's northeast area hard, the time has come for all Africans to look at the issue in a more concerted way. Henceforth, according to them, whatever affects any part of Africa must be seen as a collective assault on the African continent and treated as such.
Africa has for centuries found itself at the receiving end of injustice, with its people constantly subjected to all kinds of senseless violence imaginable, be it through slave trade, colonialism and neo-colonialism, or of late through neoliberal economic orthodoxies that wrought unparalleled havoc on the continent and its people. Whether in the context of the inter and the intra-state wars repeatedly unleashed, famines that regularly occurred, or on account of bad policies that did come and go in quick succession, the common thread that runs through the history of Africa was the rather disheartening narrative of hopelessness and loss of lives of millions throughout the continent.
The United Nations Secretary General High-Level Panel on the Post-2015 Development Agenda defines human security as reducing the level of poverty. Poverty defined not just in terms of income, but also access to basic health care and quality education, adequate housing, employment, and a safe environment. Human security is the vision to end extreme poverty in all its form in the context of sustainable development and put in place all building blocks of sustained prosperity for all. Human security is about freedom, freedom from want, through empowerment and equity, ensuring that all people have access to basic services, that they can find a livelihood and have a voice in determining where they live, and that their concerns are addressed and their priorities respected. Human security is not just a moral issue for our times, it is a political imperative, a cornerstone of social stability and human development.
It is the vision of independent, thriving and dynamic African countries, overcoming poverty, famine and conflict. It is the vision of African families raised without disease, economies managed effectively, linked to open markets and providing jobs. It is the vision of African states governed with the consent and participation of their people, and fundamental rights protected for everyone, regardless of your gender, regardless of your ethnicity, belief, disability, or sexuality. Whether it is in the high-tech hubs of Lagos and Nairobi, or the scientific innovation in South Africa, energy and ambition can be found everywhere in Africa. This is why the United Kingdom is positive about the bright future for many African nations. This is in large part down to the achievements that many African governments have made over the last decade.
Africa is currently at a critical juncture with a variety of challenges and opportunities shaping our respective countries and regions. As a continent, we have outperformed expectations of our critics. Many of our countries have soared in size both economically and socially. Yet, to all intents and purposes, despite the positive growth story we have achieved as a continent, Africa, and in particular the African people, are still faced with difficult times in the context of human security. Human security is a relatively new term in the realm of international discourse, but it is something we are all familiar with and understanding. It is a concept as defined as the security of human lives outside the traditional state-centered thinking of security, though it remains as the central objective of national and international security trajectories. Security, ladies and gentlemen, is no longer just about protecting territories, but protecting individuals. As the late Mahmoud Al-Haq aptly put it, security of all the people, everywhere, in their homes, in their jobs, in their streets, in their communities, in their environment.
It was during these celebrations in Addis Ababa that I proposed a decade of peace and reconciliation in Africa, and my government continues to advocate for this position because there cannot be any lasting peace in Africa if we do not reconcile our differences in a peaceful and harmonious manner. I am happy to note that the authority of heads of state and government of the AU have adopted this proposal for a decade of reconciliation. Therefore, it is indeed fitting that Nigeria has chosen such an apt theme as human security, peace and development for this summit. I take particular note of the fact that the sub-theme of security is qualified with the human element, because in a world that seems to be confused in its priorities, with some prioritizing the security and welfare of animals over that of human beings, it is about time that we as Africans set our priorities right. Human security cannot be attained if we do not go back to basics and reconnecting with our cultural and religious values. As Africans, we have a golden treasure trove of cultural values that can sustain and enhance our security as a race, existing harmoniously amongst ourselves and also with others. Therefore, we must reinforce our cultural renaissance by redefining our priorities both in terms of the content of educational curricula and the values we live for as individuals, societies, and nations. I am glad to note that Nigeria happens to be one such country that is proud of her heritage and serves as an example for the whole world.
In his remarks, President Goodluck Jonathan expressed the gratitude of Nigeria for the brotherly love and show of solidarity of the world leaders. He also assured Nigerians, and by extension the international community, that moving forward, Nigerian government under his watch will do everything within its power to see that peace and security prevail in all the nooks and crannies of Nigeria and the African continent as a whole. He solicited the support and cooperation of everyone, especially leaders in all parts of the world, because the issue of security is a global one.
Your Excellencies, we must strengthen existing mechanisms for national and international conflict management and create new avenues for cooperation within and between our peoples and our nations. Your Excellencies and dear friends, I firmly share the view that if we stay focused and work together, we can make this 21st century the African century, a century where all our children will have enough to eat, a century where all our children will be in schools, a century where economic growth and prosperity touches all, regardless of gender, economic, political status, ethnic or religious affinity. For this to be achieved, our development must be people-centered, people-driven, and anchored on human security.
What the organizers of the centenary celebrations called live concert, multimedia show and firework display, tagged Nigeria, a Nation United, which took place at the National Stadium Abuja, turned the entire skyline of Abuja into a kaleidoscope of exciting colors, as young Nigerians, numbering about 150 of them from different parts of the country, unleashed their creative abilities through poetry, dance, acting, and singing to celebrate Nigeria's centenary anniversary. The live performance by Nigeria's all-time great musicians, the guitar maestro, Victor Owaifo, was indeed the icing on the cake. It transported Nigerians many years back into nostalgia.
If you see Mami Water, if you see Mami Water, never you run away. Sing the song of love, sweet melody.
The Centenary Dinner and Awards, which took place at the Presidential Villa Abuja, was attended by all Nigerian heads of state and leaders, their spouses, past vice presidents or representatives and relations of past Nigerian leaders, as well as the President of Sierra Leone, Deputy Prime Minister of Kenya, and President Joyce Banda of Malawi. The event was rich in quality attendance from the different spheres of Nigerian life: politics, the media, business, corporate sector, the banking sector, the military, the legal profession, as well as the traditional institution. President Goodluck Jonathan, who was the chief host, supported by his wife and First Lady, Dame Patience Jonathan, Vice President Mohammed Namadi Sambo and his wife, Hajja Amina Sambo, Senate President David Mark and his wife Helen, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Aminu Waziri Tambuwal, and the Deputy Speaker of the House, Honorable Emeka Hedioha. Also in the audience were members of the National Assembly and members of the Federal Executive Council. The night began with a very exciting performance by children from different parts of the country who tried to depict the true essence of Nigeria's strength in diversity. The very brilliant students assured Nigerians that if it took the advanced countries of the world like the United States, Europe, and the likes centuries to get to where they are today, we should not give up on our country, because there's hope that with the huge potentials deposited in our land and the limitless opportunities that abound everywhere, Nigeria will emerge the country to watch on the threshold of a new century.
You see, in the developed countries, hey, Mr. Developed Country, hold it there. This is Nigeria and not one of your so-called countries.
See, we shall know it all. This is Nigeria, and we're just 100 years old. We're growing, we're developing, and we will get there. So stop comparing us to any other nation.
The fast-rising female singer, Waje, the pride of Nigeria's Niger Delta, and Timi Dakolo, Bayelsa State and Nigeria's pride in contemporary music, also did a special duet to further give vent to the fact that Nigeria is the next destination and the place to look at for leadership in the African continent.
Many people, different tribes, different tongues, we're united in a strengthened resolve to uphold
the high point of the centenary dinner and awards was the special awards, which began with former Nigerian heads of state and past leaders. It was followed by captains of industry who have impacted the country and its citizens in many positive ways, especially through creation of employment opportunities. Africa's richest man, Alhaji Aliko Dangote and Dr. Mike Adenuga Jr. led the way. Some past Nigerian leaders who were giving posthumous awards were represented. Other Nigerians who have made a distinct mark in their different endeavors were also honored. Law, politics, the military, creative enterprise. We had Olu Jacobs, the doyen of the Nigerian film industry, who has successfully straddled the European and Nigerian theatre industry, and Patience Ozokwo, alias Mama G. They were honored. First Nigerian to win a medal at the Olympic Games, policewoman Chioma Ajonwa, as well as the first Nigerian female pilot, were also honored. Awards such as the one given to mark the centenary anniversary of Nigeria will constantly remind all of us that the labor of our heroes past should never be in vain. They'll also serve as a constant reminder that the searchlight is beamed on all of us to be at our very best in whatever we're doing, because someday it will be our turn to be honored. Activities lined up to celebrate the attainment of Nigeria's centenary anniversary were rounded off with a church service that took place at the National Worship Center, Abuja. In attendance at the service were President Goodluck Jonathan and his wife, the First Lady, Dame Patience Jonathan, Senate President David Mark and wife Helen, Deputy Speaker House of Representatives Honorable Emeka Ihedioha, former heads of state General Yakubu Gowon and Chief Ernest Shoneko, to Tony Aneni, PDP Chairman Board of Trustees, members of the National Assembly, ministers, governors, and other top government functionaries also graced the event. The Chief of Defense Staff, Air Marshal Alex Bade, Chief of Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Adeshola Amusu, as well as clergymen from different Christian denominations were also in attendance at the service. Different choir groups performed at the event before the sermon was preached by Reverend Sunday Olamakinde, the immediate past prelate of the Methodist Church of Nigeria. In it, he emphatically said that it could only have taken the grace of God for Nigeria to have survived the hiccups we have encountered as a country, which at every point had threatened the corporate existence of our country in the last 100 years. He submitted that there's indeed a better tomorrow awaiting Nigeria as we march with hope into a brand new century. Reverend Olamakinde said that all Nigerians must rise up to support the government and the security agencies to fight the Boko Haram insurgency to a standstill.
We need to sit down as Nigerians with our different diversities and talk and agree on a common goal, common values, common interests. We don't have common values for Nigeria. We don't have common interests for Nigeria. We don't have the same goal for Nigeria. And people say, to judge war is better than to war. We are going to war. It has not solved our problems. And let me tell you, I'm not praying for any other civil war in Nigeria.
Bishop David Oyedepo and other men of God from different Christian denominations took part in intercessory prayers for the president, the judiciary, the legislature, the executive, and other arms of the Nigerian government.
The killings that go on day and night, the kidnappings in the south, the robberies all across the nation. Before our eyes, we will cease as the dream of the night. Nigeria shall not crash. The Nigerian protest shall not fail. The future of our children shall be preserved.
In President Goodluck Jonathan's remarks at the church service, he once again congratulated all Nigerians on the occasion of our centenary celebrations, reiterating the fact that we all have every reason to celebrate 100 years in the life of our country as we look forward with great expectations to a better future in the new century. He advised Nigerians to endeavor to harness all the opportunities that abound in our country so that we can take our rightful place in the Committee of World Affairs. President Goodluck Jonathan pleaded with all Nigerians to join hands to wage a relentless war against insurgency, which should be seen as the #1 enemy of Nigeria. President Goodluck Jonathan wished everyone a happy centenary anniversary.
As we round up our centenary celebration, I have only one appeal to make to all Nigerians, all of us. A few days ago, all our leaders gathered and the nation honored them for their labor of love. I see a new Nigeria filled with love. I see a new Nigeria with great determination. I see a new Nigeria with passion. I appeal to all of us to show love more than ever before to one another, regardless of tribe, religion, or race. Let us show love, even when it hurts most. For our lives will be more fulfilled, giving love to others.